Welcome to the Orlando Creator Club, one of our first podcasts here today. My name is Manny,
And I'm Anton Duong.
and yeah, let's just have a conversation and see where it goes. I had a little cheat sheet, but we don't really have to stick to it. So I'll just give you a chance to introduce yourself and talk about what you do a little bit.
My name's Anton Duong, and I am a creator. I am a creative, actually. I do a lot of different things. One of the things I usually do very often is print stickers in the office here. But my whole background is I am a graphic designer. I've been a graphic designer as far as I can remember. I come from a third generation creative. My dad was an illustrator, and also his uncle was a fine art. He used to do a lot of paintings and stuff and taught my dad how to illustrate. And that was in Vietnam. And then when he came to America, he changed his career to graphic design. I saw all the illustrations that he was doing, and it was amazing to see things that he can do with just a pencil and paper. So that kind of inspired me over time. He had a lot of software that was on the computer at home, and when he's not around, I'm pretty much using the computer. We only had one computer at home.
Yeah, that's how it was back then, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of stuff on there, and surprisingly, my dad had a lot of licensing with Adobe and stuff, so he had all the programs preloaded on there. So it's cool. I got to tinker a little bit, and that's how I got my interest in graphic design starting. And
How old are we talking about here? Were you like in diapers, typing on the keyboard and then moving the mouse?
Well, I lived in the 90s. I was born in the late 80s, but then the 90s was where it was at.
Yeah.
I lived in the era of the Y2K. I was the kid on the block that had like cable before a lot of the other kids did. We're talking about cable internet.
Yeah.
I loved watching cable before, but then ever since they started doing like internet with cable, it was faster than DSL. So I was downloading a lot of songs.
Yeah.
And people were a lot of people were pirating stuff back then, and it was cool. It was during the Napster days.
Yeah. Did you use LimeWire?
Yeah, LimeWire a
remember
little
using
bit
that.
later. Yep.
Yeah, that was one of my first hustles in high school. Like people would give me a list of a mix, and then I would go download them and burn the CD.
Yeah.
Don't come after me, music industry. I don't.
Yeah.
It's too late.
Yeah, I remember a lot of these kids in my middle school classes. They would have these catalogs in their folders, and what they would do is they would meet up with their friends or something and say, hey, you want to make your own mix? So then they would go through the catalog, and then they would write 12 songs. That's the limit. Sometimes some of the songs are like a little over 5 minutes, so you got 10 songs instead of 12.
Yeah.
So usually the last two songs are the ones that they say, oh, it might not make it to the final mix.
Yeah, I guess my operations weren't as intricate as that. It was
Yeah.
just give me the list on a piece of paper. I never thought about like expanding
Oh man,
it.
these kids had whole catalog. They had an Excel sheet with all the stuff, and then they would have like a list of new songs that they add.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty intricate. Yeah, so back then a lot of kids were hustling, so it was definitely during the time where a lot of us were like rebels. But I also lived in the 90s where it was like a lot of mixtapes and stuff, cassette tapes.
Yeah, for sure.
So you would listen to a song on the radio and you hit record, and then you get the imperfection of that song. Sometimes you get a little bit of static. So
Going back to your dad, I'm just really curious. Did you ever feel like he pushed that path onto you, or he just exposed you, but he didn't expect you to end up in the same path?
yeah, I don't think he ever really thought about pushing me in
Yeah.
that direction, really. And for me, I found the interest because there's so many cool things on the internet. And when you surf websites and you see all of the amazing stuff that people used to make, especially back then, like you would have websites that have Flash. We don't have Flash anymore. But it's just amazing to see like all of these animation
Yeah.
and all of these, I think they call it rich media because like it's things that are beyond like static images. Yeah, and I was so interested in the dynamics of how Flash worked, and surprisingly I had the software preloaded on the computer, so I tinkered with that. And that was one of the first programs I've ever worked with was Flash, Macromedia during that time, before Adobe bought them. Yeah, I tinkered with it, and I got to a point where I'm like, okay, what's the next step? How can I make this even better? Because all you can do in there is you can draw stuff, and then you can do keyframe, so you can do like animations. And then you can also do like action scripts where you, let's say you click this button, and then this animates.
Yeah.
So you can do a little bit of programming as well, which is cool.
It's interesting how like programming sometimes is you learn about it indirectly just by using creative tools. So if I try to remember like the first time I ever did something similar to programming, it's like this weird movie maker on Windows that I don't know how I found it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a Nickelodeon movie maker, but like you were able to work on the scene, bring these weird 3D characters around and like program based on the timeline.
Yeah.
And I think that was my first introduction to coding, even
Yeah.
though it wasn't like a programming language.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember a lot of that, and I think a lot of those interactions with a lot of the movie makers for kids
Yeah.
back then was basically, it was all done on Flash. I remember there was like a South Park version of it.
Oh wow.
Where-
I never
where you
tried
can-
that one.
Yeah, where you can move the characters in, and
Yeah.
then they had preloaded lines already
Yeah.
for each character, so you can create your own story, and then you can set the scenes in the background, and then it'll play like scene by scene. But yeah, I think that's a really good way to get our interest in it, because
Yeah.
we were exposed to a lot of different experiences when we were growing up. So after exploring a little bit of Flash, the next thing that I needed to do was learn Photoshop. And the reason why is because I needed to get all these images loaded onto Macromedia Flash in order to animate all of these stuff.
Right.
You can do like fades and stuff, and you can do a background with like text for buttons and stuff. So in order to do that, I had to learn Photoshop. So I started tinkering with that. I asked my dad how to use Photoshop, but he just gave me the basics.
Right.
And then I learned everything else online. And before YouTube was around, you had to learn everything on books or like CD-ROMs.
Oh yeah, help. You remember those old help windows it's like a document with all the searchable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you would have that, and then I would go to my local library just to look at books, because they have all of these CD-ROMs in the very back with lessons and what is it called when it's an image in a library?
Clip
It's
art,
yeah. Yeah, I was like, man, I don't even know if people call it clip art. I think they just call it stock images. But yeah, they had all these preloaded on there already, so you can learn how to use all of these things, and you can go along in the book. But surprisingly, a lot of the stuff in there was basic still, so you had to go to websites that were talking about how to do advanced stuff. Yeah, so that's how I started getting into that. And then after that, I started getting commissions from friends and their families and stuff who needs a website. So I started building a lot of websites in the 90s and the early 2000s. So
Nice.
that's-
And you were doing this on the side as you were still in school.
yeah, still in school.
Yeah.
And I got to meet a lot of people, and surprisingly, one of my friends was a really good DJ, and he had a lot of exposure. He had a good following. So when I created his website, at the very bottom of the website, I would put my name, and I would put a link to my information. And I got a lot of people that contact me and try to figure out like if they want to work with me, or there are people that was like, oh, that's really cool. I want to learn how you make all this stuff. So they ask me like questions on how to design certain things. And a lot of them are pretty good friends nowadays. Like,
Really cool.
I'm still in contact with
Yeah.
them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was weird being a high school student, getting work online and everything. I was using my dad's PayPal at the very beginning to get money. My dad thought I was selling drugs or something, but yeah, but it was cool to be a kid getting money through PayPal. And it would be like, I got this project where I was doing like CD covers for I think it was like a R&B production, like
Okay.
in Vegas. They had a lot of the different artists that they were featuring, and I did a lot of that stuff. And every time I did like a CD label, they would give me like $200 for the commission. And $200 for a kid during that time in high school was a lot of money. So I used all that money to buy like computer parts and stuff.
More equipment,
Yeah.
just to be able to do more and more creative
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering about like the motivation. From hearing your story, I think you were just following your passion and your joy. Like you're doing what you enjoy. Like you're just exploring all these things, and the money was really just not something that was on your radar, right?
Yeah, it wasn't really on my radar. And surprisingly, by doing all that, there was someone from Texas, two people from Texas that was very interested in what I was doing, and they were giving me work as well.
Yeah.
At one point, there was this guy that worked for a Mazda dealership that was asking me for commission work on doing like some flash animations for the website. That was cool.
But now fast forwarding, now you're an adult.
Yeah.
You've got a family. You've got all these different. I don't know how many things you got going on right now. I'm thinking probably 5+ just based on who you are.
Yeah, fast forwarding to now, yeah, I'm doing a lot of things. I have a lot of experience, and I've come a long way. I've done a lot of work from printing. I used to work at a banner place. I used to teach film, and the whole film thing is a whole different story.
Yeah, for sure.
And I explored it a little bit later on during high school. And I even had a little section of my life where I was really interested in acting. So I was in like a lot of plays and stuff. So that was also an avenue that I always wanted to get into. But yeah, now I run a couple businesses. I run my own ad agency called Ad Multimedia. And what I do there is I design pretty much anything that people need to design. One of the main things I usually design is packaging for like beauty products and stuff like that. So I've been doing that for over 10, 12 years now.
Okay.
But on the side, I run a sticker business with a business partner named Chris Lau. He does a marketing business, and we just met out of this Conduit co-working space. And surprisingly, when we met, we were talking about things that we were interested in and also places that we worked in the past. And surprisingly, some of the places that he worked at, I did business with. And that's how we connected, and we saw things that kind of made sense. And the whole sticker business was interesting because I had a printer that prints all of these packaging stuff that I wanted to make sure that I have a good prototype that I could show to my clients. So when I left my previous business, I kept the printer and I started printing all of these stickers for fun as a hobby. And then when I met Chris, he's like, have you ever thought about turning this into a business? And I said, yeah. I looked into the whole model. I actually wrote down exactly like what I need to do in order to make the business happen. And he was like, cool, let's have a couple lunch and talk about this. And then after 2 lunches at Ziggy's Pizza down the street, we hit it off. We did a 90-day setup where we say, hey, if it doesn't work in 90 days, we'll just call it quits.
Did you have a specific number in mind, or was it more of a loose thing? If there's no momentum in 90 days, we're closing shop.
Yeah, basically momentum. And we hit it off very quickly because I had a previous website already done on WordPress. And the reason why I started with WordPress when I started doing, before Chris jumped on, was I had more control over it. And that's the great thing about WordPress is you can start small and then scale from there. But the only thing about WordPress is it's security, updates, and all these plugins.
Oh, I've been in WordPress plugin hell myself.
None of the plugins really play with each other that well. But when they do, oh my God, it works so well.
Yeah.
But then there's all these updates, and it's a good thing to have the updates. But once the update happens, things crash, things don't work.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I wanted to avoid. So we went ahead and went to Shopify. Yeah, this episode is not sponsored by Spotify.
No.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about Spotify is there's security.
Yeah.
And there are limitations to a lot of the stuff that you can do on there. But it's a good thing because it not make things too complicated. When you work with WordPress, there's so many things that go into factor. Let's say like a plugin just doesn't work anymore, and they're not supporting.
Oh yeah, out of commission.
Yeah, it comes and goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why we moved on to Shopify, and I designed the site within 1 week, and we launched it within 1 week since we started.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the site has been the same since.
Yeah.
So.
Coming from tech myself, like I always have the inclination to build the software, build a website first, and then go out and get a customer. And I've learned that's like sometimes the backwards thing to do. Like with this Creator Club thing, I still haven't made a website. And I'm just forcing myself to just talk to people and see what they would use our Creator Club for. And I'll build a website in the next few weeks. But it's not really necessary. We're just scrappy with the link tree and showing pictures, and that's all for now. But I want to go back to, when I joined the Conduit, you guys were just starting this thing, and I remember, so I was part of the entrepreneurship group here, and I was just looking for, hey, what can I do? I've got my day job with the tech, but I want to do something on top of that, diversify a little bit. And I tried a bunch of different things, like freelancing, building like an AI translation app and everything. But it was hard to really be consistent. And it takes me back to what you said about you were doing the printing for fun. Something that happened this year is I decided to do a kids audio story just for fun. I hadn't done music production in a while, took everything out of the closet. Initially, I felt guilty. Man, like I'm wasting time making these things. There's no money in it, at least now. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Why not? I deserve a little bit of fun. And if I hadn't done that, we wouldn't be here today. Where Dimitri came up to me and was like, hey, you got a podcast. Look, the treehouse, they're building it up. It's perfect for recording. Yeah, so it's just an interesting example of how sometimes you just got to do what you love and then see what comes from that.
That's true. And that's a good example to something I did recently. Last year, I went to a designer conference called CropCon. It's in Austin. And I went without any intentions of doing anything at all, maybe just helping out.
Yeah.
Because I know the person that runs it, and he said he needed help, so I went over there. So when I got there, he just gave me a pass, and he's like, just hang out. And I was like, feels weird not doing anything. So I just took out my camera, started taking pictures, and then he's like, oh, we don't have a photographer today.
Oh,
We're
wow.
just doing workshops. We didn't really need one, but you're more than welcome to take pictures.
Wow.
So I went in and did that, and they loved it so much that they wanted me to come back this year, which I came back recently.
Wow.
And yeah, I had a really good time. And this time I covered the whole entire event. I just took pictures for all 3 days. And that's the thing about having fun, is you never know where it leads you.
Yeah.
But as long as you're having a good time doing it, it just follows.
And I think people can tell the level of service or the quality of what you provide is different when, you know, there's a twinkle in your eye or you're really enjoying it versus you're just there for the paycheck. And man, what was I going to say about that? So how do you juggle all these things? It sounds like you thrive in variety, right?
Yeah.
If you were just doing just a 9 to 5, just doing one thing over and over, maybe you'd be going crazy.
I'm going crazy now, actually.
So maybe you're not doing well at juggling everything.
Yeah, it's hard to juggle, especially when you're taking on a lot of responsibility.
Right.
But at the same time, you find new ways to transfer that responsibility. What I mean by that is I have a lot of friends, I have a lot of people that I work with, and people that don't have enough work that would like to have more work. So, for example, I have a lot of clients, right? And it's hard for me to juggle my clients with my printing business and also like family, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I try to give work to other people so that way it also pays their bills and also keeps my clients happy.
Yeah.
So that's why a lot of times when I'm trying to do my design stuff, I have someone that I can rely on. So that's why I have people like a good friend of mine who works in the office now is Cesar. So he really helps me alleviate
Yeah, for sure.
a lot of the stress levels on working with the other clients that I have. So by doing that and hiring a couple more people to do certain things, certain jobs, really definitely helps.
Yeah. And your family helps too, right?
Yeah, family helps too. The thing is, sometimes owning a business, you got to go the extra mile in order to make things work.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And of course, the hard work really pays off in the end, hopefully. So yeah, there are times where I'm here really late.
Yeah.
I might have to pull like a 24-hour thing. But when you have moments like that, you might go, okay, how can I fix this problem in order to not do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why we have to hire more people.
Yeah.
And it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys from the very start, and it's honestly been very inspiring to see from the sidelines. And when I see that your family's there and everything, it takes me back to in South America. So my dad owned bakeries, and we were always in there. My grandmother was the cashier. I would just be helping, but really just taking sweets from the counters. But I did learn a lot just watching how people were preparing everything, and then my mom would also be there. I think that's one resistance I had to starting businesses on top of my job was that, like, okay, I got 2 kids, I got a family, how am I going to pull this off? And I think the best thing is to bring them in. So my wife is doing photography, and now she's going to be a bigger part of this thing too. She's got the staff membership, she'll do the branding, photo shoots and stuff like that. And I'll bring my kids in whenever, just a little paranoid about the tripods and everything, so maybe I'll put them upstairs or something. But yeah, I think those are some good tips, definitely.
Yeah.
And the ability to delegate, which is something that you cannot do with a traditional job, but with a business you can delegate. You know, so I can't cover this session, or I can't print these stickers, send somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess another stress level that I have right now is prepping all of these other side projects and stuff too. Like right now we have the sticker show coming out. It's coming out next weekend.
Ooh.
Not this weekend, but next weekend. So we're gearing up. We're making sure that we have all of our artists' stickers printed. We have over 80 artists.
Oof.
So managing
Incredible.
80 people is very hard. Yeah, so stuff like that. I have to have people to help me out. And last year, I took on the job of doing everything, and it just got to a point where I was so exhausted.
Yeah.
I was printing stickers and organizing everything to the last minute. And luckily, I had a group of people that I rely on, and thank God I have these people. They're a local chapter. They're a group of designers. They're called AIGA. And this group of people help other designers and creatives to thrive in Orlando. And this is one of my passion projects, is to do the sticker show, and they have full support. So that morning when they came in last year, I didn't have any of the stickers pulled out from the sheets.
Oh,
So they
no.
all came in, they all popped out the stickers, they all set up everything, and they helped out with the logistics of where to place all the stickers, where people are coming in. And then I felt everything was lifted at that point. I can actually go out, meet people, and then do other things that are more important than
that's
doing all
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, having people help you facilitate, man, it's a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it all alone. The benefits of working here at the Conduit, it's like you can lean on other people. We opened this up and started getting all kinds of donations, lights and tripods, which is amazing.